Sam Patrichaya Mudiraye. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Nara Narayan Rishi, the supreme human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Shah Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavad Birnaishtiki. By regular attendance in the classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 21. Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayam Eva Kirtir.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayameva Kirtir.
Nam Nam Nirnam Pururujam Ruja Shuhanti.
Nam Nam Vinam Purujam Ruja Ashuhanti.
Yagne Chabagam Amartayur Avavarundam.
Yage Chabagam Amitayuravavarunta.
Ayushya Vedam Anushastya Vatirya Loke.
Ayushya Veda Manushascha Vitirya Loke.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayam Eva Kirtir.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayameva Kirtir.
Nam Naninam Pururujam Ruja Shuhanti.
Nam Nanvinam Purujam Ruja Ashuhanti.
Yagne Chabagam Amrtayur Avavarunandam.
Yage Chabagam Amitayuravavarunta.
Ayushya Vedam Anushastya Vatirya Loke.
Ayushya Veda Manushastya Vitirya Loke.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayam Eva Kirtir.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayameva Kirtir.
Nam Naninam Pururujam Ruja Ashuhanti.
Nam Nanvinam Purujam Ruja Ashuhanti.
Yagne Chabagam Amartayur Avavarundam.
Yage Chabagam Amitayuravavaruntam.
Ayushya Vedam Anushastya Vatirya Loke.
Ayushya Veda Manushastya Vatirya Loke. This is Canto 2, Chapter 7, Text 21. As I saw a question on the chat about which verse we're on. Hare Krishna. Okay. Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayameva Kirtir. Nam Nanvinam Purujam Ruja Ashuhanti. Yage Chabagam Amitayuravavarunta. Ayushya Veda Manushastya Vatirya Loke.
Ayushya Veda Manushastya Vatirya Loke. It's okay.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Swayameva Kirtir.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Swayameva Kirtir.
Nam Naminam Pururu Purujam Ruja Shuhanti.
Nam Nam Rinam Purujam Ruja Suhanti.
Agyecha Bhagam Amritayuravavarunda.
Yagyecha Bhagam Amritayuravavarunda.
Ayushya Vedam Anushashyavati Loke.
Ayusha Veda Manusha Shavati Loke. Tanvantarisha Bhagavan Swayameva Kirti.
Antarisha Bhagavan Swayameva Kirti.
Nam Nam Rinam Purujam Ruja Shuhanti.
Vinam Purujam Raja Suhanti.
Yage Chabhagam Amritayuravavarunda.
Yage Bhagam Ayuravavarunda.
Ashutya Veda Manushastya Vatirya Loke.
Ayushya Vedam Anushastyavatirya Loke.
Navantarischa Bhagavan Swayameva Kirti.
Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Swayameva Kirti.
Naminam Purujam Puja Astuanti.
Nam Nam Rinam Purujam Ruja Shuhanti.
Yagyesha Bhagam Amritayuravavarunda.
Yagesha Bhagam Ayuravavarunda.
Ayusha Veda Manushasya Vatirya Loke.
Ayushya Vedam Anushasyavatira Loke.
Anyone else would like to recite the verse? Okay, so Dhanvantari,
Hari.
the incarnation of God named Dhanvantari.
The incarnation of God named Dhanvantari.
Cha
Cha.
and
And
Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead.
the personality of Godhead.
Svayam Eva,
Svayam Eva.
personally himself.
Personally himself.
Kirti,
Kirti.
fame personified.
Fame personified.
Namna,
Namna.
by the name.
By the name.
Nrinam Pururujam,
Rinam Puru Rujam.
of the deceased living entities.
Of the diseased living entities.
Ruja,
Ruja.
diseases.
Diseases.
Ashu,
Ashu.
very soon.
Very soon.
Hanti,
Hanti.
cures.
Cures.
Yagna,
Yage.
in the sacrifice.
In the sacrifice.
Cha,
Cha.
also.
Also.
Bhagam,
Bhagam.
share.
Share.
Amrita,
Amrita.
nectar.
Nectar.
Ayuh,
Ayu.
duration of life.
Duration of life.
Eva,
Eva.
from.
From.
Avarunda,
Avarundhe.
obtains.
Obtains.
Ayushya,
Ayusha.
of duration of life.
Of duration of life.
Vedam,
Vedam.
knowledge.
Knowledge.
Anushasti,
Anushasti.
directs.
Directs.
Avatirya,
Avatirya.
incarnation, incarnating.
Incarnating.
Loke,
Loke.
in the universe.
In the universe.
So, translation. The Lord in his incarnation of Dhanvantari very quickly cures the diseases of the ever-deceased living entities simply by his fame personified. And only because of him do the demigods achieve long lives. Thus the personality of Godhead becomes ever glorified. He also exacted a share from the sacrifices, and it is he only who inaugurated the medical science or the knowledge of medicine in the universe. Prepared by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As stated in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, everything emanates from the ultimate source of the personality of Godhead. It is therefore understood in this verse that medical science or knowledge in medicine was also inaugurated by the personality of Godhead in this incarnation, Dhanvantari. And thus, the knowledge is recorded in the Vedas. The Vedas are the source of all knowledge, and thus knowledge in medical science is also there for the perfect cure of the diseases of the living entity. The embodied living entity is diseased by the very construction of his body. The body is the symbol of diseases. Disease may differ from one variety to another, but disease must be there just as there is birth and death for everyone. So, by the grace of the personality of Godhead, not only are diseases of the body and mind cured, but also the soul is relieved of the constant repetition of birth and death. The name of the Lord is also called Bhavosadi, or the source of curing the disease of material existence. Amagyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurumilitam Yena Tasyam Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakaram Mahayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Dutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radha Devaneshwari Rishabhanu Shrute Devi Pranamame Vaharit Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhuvya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Mudaya Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyoni Pashatresha Tarine. So, I feel nervous because I watched some of the classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 7, and anyone who had class, in my perception, had like such an elaborated description of the personality of Godhead, of the concrete incarnation and of the pastime. And I feel like I don't know much about Dhantavari, even though I made quantum jump in my reading of Srimad Bhagavatam and I read something about him in 8th canto. But what's fascinating is that like when Dhira Govinda Prabhu invited me to lead class a month ago I agreed that today on 31st of July I'm going to lead a class. I was curious which incarnation I will get, if any. Maybe I thought the chapter will be over by then. And then when I got this one, that really struck me because when I read this 2nd canto, maybe 4 years ago, for the first time, I was reading about Dhanvantari, and I thought I have to remember his name because as my work, I work as a horse chiropractor and healer, and I thought like maybe I could like remember his name and like before every treatment to like pray to him that I don't interfere with the karma of the living entity that I connect with, and like pray that like that's like a service, that the treatment that I do is a service to the personality of Godhead and to the spirit soul that's within the body, and maybe like in the spirit of like, okay, there is the matter, like Shri Prabhupada says that this, and does he say this body, the body is the symbol of diseases. So not only like when I connect with the living entity that is about curing the body, but especially it's about curing the spirit soul. And that can look in many different ways. Maybe the disease will remain, or maybe there will be a cure and that will move the living entity towards gratitude. So it can look in different ways. And so 4 years ago, when I was reading this verse, I thought, I want to remember, I still don't remember Dhanvantari. I want to remember this name and pray to him before every treatment. And I completely forgot. And I also stopped treating horses. For a few years, I wasn't treating horses at all. And now a few months ago, I started to treat horses again. And then I got this verse, the Lord in his incarnation of Dhanvantari. And I remembered my process about it a few years ago. So it's special to me that by accident, I'm getting to give class about Dhanvantari. Krishna, I will never remember it, even if I give I don't know how many classes on him. And I found a picture in Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto in this version. There is a beautiful picture. Well, I don't see if you see because now I'm not having my self view. Yes, here. So now you can. So that's Dhanvantari. He's coming out from the ocean of milk with the nectar in his hands. So it's very beautiful. And now I will hide myself again so I don't watch myself. Yes. So Dhanvantari, Malini the other day was giving some class about the churning of the nectar pastime. So the demons and the demigods were churning the ocean of milk, and then first poison came, and then other things came, and then Dhanvantari finally with the nectar came. And what struck me also that Lord Vishnu, when he was giving instructions to the demigods about churning the nectar, he said like there will be other things coming out from the ocean before the nectar will come, and like don't be disturbed by the things that come out, don't be disturbed by it. So then like huge amounts of poison came and Lord Shiva drank it all, and then a Surabhi cow came and they made ghee from her milk, and then a horse came. Imagine, a horse came as a second thing. I know, it's amazing. Who can foretell? And then like all like beautiful women, like the most beautiful women in the universe, and Lakshmi Devi, but the horse was before that. So I think I would get distracted by that, be the demigods, be the demigods churning the nectar, but they didn't get distracted and they kept churning, and finally Dhanvantari came with the nectar of immortality, and then the demons stole it, and then Vishnu tricked them by incarnating as Mohini Murti. So the demons got distracted by her beauty, and then the demigods got the nectar. And so the nectar of immortality, that's what Krishna in this incarnation is giving. And really Krishna is giving in his original form as Krishna and his all incarnations, and through the agents of his pure devotees. That's what Krishna is giving. He's giving the nectar of immortality. And I was thinking about this like immortality principle, because the demigods, they live as long as it seems like they are immortal to us, but actually they are also going to die and leave this body. But in one purport that I recently read in Srimad Bhagavatam, and I already shared with Raghavendra Prabhu, that's purport to 7.3.21, Srila Prabhupada writes, the demigods who reside with Lord Brahma in Satyaloka go to Vaikuntha in their present bodily constructions at the time of the dissolution. So from this one purport, it seems that there are also demigods who are really immortal, like the Pandavas, Arjuna and Yudhishthir. When they are ready to leave this world, go back Godhead, back to Vaikuntha, they are living in their present body, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. And also here in that purport, in 7th canto, Srila Prabhupada says, it appears some of the demigods also go in their present body. So immortality can actually mean like keeping this very body and going with it somewhere back to Godhead for eternity. And I think in most cases, and what's relevant for us is immortality means the immortality of the spirit soul, that we realize that we are actually not this body and that we are not taking it with us. I'm not taking this body in the next 3 decades. I will have quite different body than the body of a young woman in 30 years. So I'm not taking this body with me very long. And I'm not going to, even the body of the old woman, if I live that long, I'm not going to take with me at the time of death, which is the final change of body. So immortality, in for what it means mostly for us is understanding I'm not this body, I'm the spirit soul that's immortal. And to the degree that I realize that, I don't have to fear death because I know that I am immortal. So I don't realize it very much. And I wish I was at least at this question, like who am I? At least if I was at this question of who am I, that would be a great progress. But I'm so much in the I know that. Like, yeah, I know I'm not this body. I read it in Srimad Bhagavatam every day. So, but really, like how much I'm realizing it? Not much. Like, for example, I have some thoughts of envy. And then I think like, oh, I'm a bad person because I have these thoughts. So that's just a proof that I think I'm my mind. And I could give more examples like how I can practically see that I'm not realizing that I'm not this body, that I'm not realizing that I'm not this soul. And so not only Dhanvantari, but Krishna and all his pure devotees, all his representatives are giving us this nectar of immortality, by which we can realize that we are immortal because we are not these bodies which are mortal, and we are not these minds which are mortal. And that's amazing. So when Srila Prabhupada speaks that this body is like he says, the embodied living entity is deceased by the very construction of his body. So this body is going to be deceased, is going to be old, is going to die, is completely going to be destroyed and fall apart. So that's one, and it's true. And also just like being in this body and believing I am this body, I am this mind, that's also disease condition. Like even let's say this body is like completely healthy. That can be like times when the body is healthy, so-called, but still the spirit soul is in a diseased condition because it's ill consciousness to think that I am this body, to think I am this mind, to think that I am disconnected from Krishna, to think there is not even Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's all disease condition. So this body, this very body, is a proof that my soul is diseased. Like my soul is diseased, and there is a cure. And Srila Prabhupada is giving us abundance of cure for this disease that is the primary cause of every other disease. The disease of the soul to identify with this body is the cause of all other diseases. So if we just can cure this primary disease, the primary disease of misidentification, there is no more disease. There is no more disease. And maybe the body is so-called healthy from the material perspective, or maybe the body is so-called ill from the material perspective, but it doesn't matter because I am not the body. So as soon as the soul consciousness is healthy, there is no more disease. And so Dhanvantari is giving us the science of like how to take care for the material body, but mainly and especially as my understanding is how to cure the spirit, soul, and the consciousness. Because like Dhanvantari is giving the basis for Ayurveda, so it's Veda, and all the Vedas are meant for self-realization. All the Vedas are meant for self-realization. And so also Ayurveda is meant for self-realization. And if we are just like blindly trying to cure the body, then we are completely missing the point. And Vyasadeva, when he compiled the Vedas, he was really desperate because he thought like, wow, the people of this age, they will completely miss the point. So he could foresee that, and then he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. So we don't have to miss the point. But really also Ayurveda, which is the science given by Dhanvantari, is meant for self-realization. That's the main reason in all that. And I like often see with my clients and believe that like the disease of the material body is often a reflection of the disease of the spirit soul. And it's like a message. It's like the message on the gross level that we can see with our senses. But what's happening is really on the subtle level. And so, yes. So now I lost the line. But I want to say that yes, Dhritarashtra, he's blind. He's like materially diseased. He has material disease because he's blind. He cannot see. And Srila Prabhupada says, and unfortunately, he's also spiritually blind. So again, here I can see how much disconnected I am from the realization that I'm not this body. Because for me, like being spiritually blind, well, that's okay. That's how I live and I'm doing well. But being material blind, like not being able to see with my material eyes, that's really scary for me to imagine. I would never want to be blind. Like if I were to give up like any of the organs or legs or like be somehow disabled, to give up the ability to see with my material eyes, that would be really hard for me. And so when Srila Prabhupada says, yeah, he was material blind, like it doesn't matter, but unfortunately he was also spiritually blind. So that's revealing a lot to me. And so this nectar of immortality that Dhanvantari is giving is the nectar that we can all taste. It happened actually the past time it happened, and he gave like the demigods were drinking the nectar and they got these long lives. And also we can all taste it by being given the holy names. The holy names is also the nectar of immortality. Like Lord Chaitanya in his Shikshastakam, he says that it's like the ocean, it's like the nectarian ocean, it's the nectar that we are always anxious to taste. The holy name is the nectar that we are always anxious to taste. And that's the nectar of immortality, because the holy name is like capable of giving us this realization, that we are the spirit soul and not the material body. Chetodarpanam arjanam baba mahva davagni nirvapanam shakairava vitaranam vidyavaruchivanam ananda buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamrita swadanam sarvatma swaparam param vichayate Shri Krishna sankirtanam. So that's the nectar of the holy name, the nectar of immortality that we are all given. And it's just like, it's amazing. And sometimes I remember how ungrateful I am, and I'm thinking, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Like the demigods, they had like such a harsh like work to get the nectar of immortality, to like churn like the whole nectar with a huge mountain. Like they were like carrying it, but some of them died on the way to carrying the mountain to churn the ocean. And then like here I am, like getting the holy name without even asking for it. And then still not feeling grateful. It's really amazing. So when there is described the pastime with churning the nectar, there are like different magic happening that Krishna provides or Lord Vishnu provides. And the demigods, they are always grateful and praising the Lord. And the demons are like whatever, you know, of course the Lord is doing this for us. So I can see from that like in which side of the continuum I am at more often, and and it's not on the demigod side, but that's why I'm here. And here is a great place. Here is a great place for demons to be, because it's like a golden age of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We are all here in the golden age of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is present, Srila Prabhupada is present, the Holy Name is present, and it's like a best chance. It's like a best chance for the demoniac mentality to be cured, and for the original disease of the spirit soul to be cured and get from this place which is full of diseases and death and misery, and it's our opportunity to get that, like not to be like, oh la la la, I think this is like quite a nice place, but really get that this is not a nice place. This is like a worse than a horror movie, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that. And then that we are in this golden age of Lord Chaitanya, and it's like the greatest opportunity in the whole material universe to go back home, back to Godhead. And the opportunity that we were reading today morning, the opportunity is for everyone, it's like not only like for women or less intelligent or like dirty people or meat eaters or cow eaters. It's also for all sorts of living entities that are here, be they in the body of a grass or ant or a parrot. We were reading it today morning. That was really exciting for me. Anandini, Paramatma, Anuk and Noah from Switzerland were visiting us for a week. And we were reading together the seed verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. So today we read from Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse 36. And Srila Prabhupada says, even the worms, well, actually he's quoting Garuda Purana, and it translates, even the worms, birds, and beasts are assured of elevation to the highest perfection of life if they are completely surrendered to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So what to speak of the philosophers amongst the human beings? So in this golden age of Lord Chaitanya, anyone, any living entity that is fortunate enough to take birth here can go back to Godhead. And we were discussing a lot this very paragraph, because it's quite fascinating that like the worm could be completely surrendered to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So we came to some ideas how that could be possible. So, for example, I don't know if some devotee gets the coronavirus. Yes, coronavirus, and the devotee keeps chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So then there is like billions of living entities at once getting the holy name. And then we don't know what happens to their consciousness. We don't really know what happens to their consciousness. And there is like examples like Bharat Maharaj as a deer. So maybe I am seeing a deer, but actually this deer is completely absorbed in the personality of Godhead constantly. Or the Arjuna trees. Okay, so we might see trees, but actually these trees are special spirit souls who are constantly meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, as we cannot know what's in someone else's heart, like we don't know what's in other people's heart, but we also don't know what is in other living entities' heart. And the consciousness, there is like nothing stagnant about consciousness. So the consciousness can be evolving, going up, or devolving, going down. And that's happening for all of us, all the living entities, constantly. Like either I act in such a way that I am bringing myself closer to self-realization and to Krishna, or I'm acting to such a way that I am bringing myself farther away. And my understanding about the lower species than human beings is that they can always only go higher. There is no possibility for a dog to go down in their consciousness, because anything that the dog is doing is just purging. It's purging the karma. It's like for the spirit soul being in the dog body, there is not like free choice. It's acting like a machine, and there is purging. And so the spirit soul in the dog body is always going up. And then maybe if the dog gets a holy name or prashadam, like the dog in Chaitanya Charitamrita, who gets prashadam from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we don't know what happens to the consciousness. And so maybe even the consciousness in the body of the dog is already so elevated just by being on this planet Earth in the golden age of Lord Chaitanya, where there is like a Maha Mantra going on 24 hours a day, like different places of the world, constant chanting of Hare Krishna mantra and prashadam leftovers. So all the living entities that are here, they are getting this benefit. And then we don't know what's happening in the consciousness inside their bodies. And so maybe when they leave their bodies, they are all pure devotees and go back to Godhead, or we don't know. And on the contrary, like a consciousness into human being can be also going down because we have the advantage of having the choice. And so maybe if I look at the consciousness, if I look at a human bodied living entity, maybe that living entity already has a consciousness lower than a worm in the stool, but we don't see that. So also all the living entities like dogs and worms, he says worms in this purport, worms, they can be absorbed in devotional service 24 hours a day. And we just don't see that because the worm in the stool acts like the worm in the stool. But it doesn't mean that he's not absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. We cannot know. And that's exciting for me because I like to chant for the grass, and I like to give prashadam to other living entities than human-bodied living entities. And just a few days ago, I sent a donation to my friend who has a farm, and she's like saving animals. Like she has 80 animals that she takes care for, so they don't go to slaughterhouse. And I made a donation to her, and I told her like that for the donation, I want that all her animals get prashadam hay. I want prashadam hay for the animals. And that was out of her box because she never offered hay to Krishna. I said, offer to Krishna's cow, like offer it to Krishna, so and say it's for his cows. And she said she would do that, and it was out of her box that she could do it for her animals. And first I was like happy that I did it, and then I started to feel like, well, maybe I should donate it to Akshaya Patra to feed like children with prashadam, or maybe I should donate to something else. And I felt all these doubts. And then today morning we have read this purport, and I thought like, no, it's like great that the cows and goats and sheep and everyone on the farm will get prashadam hay, because all the like on the soul level we are all equal, and being here we all have the opportunity to get the nectar of immortality, because this nectar of immortality is so accessible that is available to everyone, to all living entities that are here on this planet Earth, in this universe, and are able to hear the vibration of the holy name. And we are amongst these living entities in the human body. And as such we have a responsibility for the living entities that have no chance to utter the holy name themselves. As such we have the gift that we can chant anytime we want to, because we have the ability to do so. And we have a responsibility to provide this gift to everyone. And it's special. It's a responsibility, and it's a blessing. It's a blessing. Yesterday with the Banama family, we went to Prague Harinam, to the place where I took Malini for book distribution. So there was like a lot of people and a lot of traffic, and it was like, okay. And then it was yes, then they all shared like how transcendental experience it was, like to be in the big city that's really not like, it doesn't feel like cozy or nice or warm, laughing. It's just like kind of gross, and so many people were rushing here and there, and then like sitting there and singing Hare Krishna, and then we all felt like this is the best place to be. It's like being at home, being sheltered, and Nandini said, and all the people walking by were like so beautiful all of a sudden. So it's our responsibility and also our opportunity and a blessing that we can do that in the human form. And also it's our responsibility to drink the nectar of immortality ourselves and know what will support us to do that. Because when even the worm in the stool can be fully absorbed in the Lord, that also means that no matter what our doing, our being can be always absorbed in the Lord, in Krishna. And because we have intelligence, we can also like find out what doing will enhance the being. And that can look in many different ways. So for example, when I treat horses, I don't remember Dhanvantari, but I remember Lord Nrsingadev. Every time before I treat the horse, I sing Nrsingadev prayers and I pray intensely for the soul in the horse and for not interfering with which shouldn't be interfered with. So then such activity that maybe from outside doesn't look like devotional service whatsoever is actually activity that helps me to remember and drink a little bit or a lot more than I deserve and much less than I could have of the nectar of immortality that Krishna through Srila Prabhupada gave us. So now I will read the verse again, if I find it. Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Svayameva Kirtir Nam Nanrinam Pururucham Rucha Ashuhanti Yagnecha Bhagam Amrtayur Avavarundam Ayushya Vedam Anushastya Vatirya Lokem. The Lord, in his incarnation of Dhanvantari, very quickly cures the diseases of the ever-diseased living entities, simply by his fame personified. And only because of him do the demigods achieve long lives. Thus the personality of Godhead becomes ever glorified. He also exacted a share from the sacrifices, and it is he only who inaugurated the medical science or the knowledge of medicine in the universe. So I hope that I didn't speak too fast and you are able to follow somewhat. And now I welcome comments, questions, discussions, critics, whatever you would like to share.
Hare Krishna, Haladini.
Hare Krishna, Eze.
For class, I really like your, I experience you as so humble when you give class in your personal disclosures about your process. And I found it really touching when you were sharing that, like, we have access to this nectar of immortality, and like I could really identify in your process when you were sharing you have access to it without doing much for it, and you don't even deserve it, or you're not even grateful for it, rather. Yeah, I can really connect with that, where oftentimes I have this experience of, like, even last night I was like, oh, it's 9 p.m. and I still have like 8 rounds to chant, and like, oh, I have to do this. And yeah, it was really touching for me, the way that you described, like, really what a rare gift, what a rare opportunity it is to get to have this, that the demigods, it's really the demons were working hard for it also, and how yeah, it was something that they so much wanted, it's what we're working for, and then here I am, it's like handed to me, and I'm like, ugh. So I really appreciate you highlighting that.
Hare Krishna, thank you for sharing. I see that you are getting like a glimpses of the possibility of having get to mentality about the opportunity to chant, rather than like, oh, I have to like still 8 rounds at 9 p.m. If I was there, we would probably do it together.
Small glimpses. Yes, very small glimpses. Hare Krishna.
For sharing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Haladini Shakti, for your sharing. I'm feeling illuminated by many of the distinctions you made and the points, and it really stands out to me, these few sentences from Prabhupada in the purport, and I appreciated how you elaborated on them. The embodied living entity is diseased by the very construction of his body. The body is the symbol of diseases. The disease may differ from one variety to another, but disease must be there, just as there is birth and death for everyone. And yeah, so, we talk, Prabhupada emphasizes so much how happiness, material happiness, is just the relief of misery. And that principle, it's kind of magnified here in relation to disease. So we can think of, I'm diseased, I have the flu, I have a deadly virus, I'm having a heart attack, and we can think of disease. Certainly still here in Florida very intensely, maybe not so much in other parts of the continent or the world, but there's this whole life is changed by this little germ. And but that's it. So it's, Prabhupada gives the example of like the dunking stool for a criminal. They would put the criminal under the water, and before he would die, they would lift him up, and this is happiness, I can breathe. So we can think, I'm free from disease. But no, as you pointed out in your class, this body, it is disease. This is a diseased condition. So the best we can, so it's like we think, we're happy, we're free from disease, or I had some injury or disease for a week or a month or like that. So this, even when the so-called healthy condition materially, it's simply a relief. It's a relative. Like I'm not suffering as much as I was when there was this severe disease, but we are in a diseased condition, and so this whole body is the whole body's like a tumor on the soul, to use it. It's like a gross term, but I like how you shared that, like, for us to really get this is worse than a horror movie. So we think, that's some sort of an exaggeration, but no. That's why we don't get Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajita Pusham Puran. That's why we don't get intense, because they think, la-di-da, I'm doing pretty good. La-di-da, I'm doing pretty good. And we don't get into this material existence is worse than any horror movie anyone's ever designed or created. Avaranatmika Shakti. The way Maya works is to convince us that I'm doing really good. I'm not suffering as much as yesterday. She's doing worse than me. Life is good. Yeah, so you use the horror movie analogy, the acharyas, the shastra, these really heavy analogies. We in the morning we sing Samsara Davanala Lida Loka Trinaya Karidya Ganaganatvam. It's like we're caught in a blazing forest fire, and just imagine, like an animal, a human caught in a blazing forest fire. How terrifying that is. And then the spiritual masters, like the rain cloud that extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence. If we actually imagine that, that we're like burning up in a forest fire. And then the point is, and this is worse, but just because we're in some stupor, we're not getting it. Prahlad Maharaj has a verse that Prabhupada quoted in one of his poems on the Jaladuta. Prahlad Maharaj says, I've fallen into into a pit of poisonous snakes. So again, imagine we're in a pit of snakes. You know, I'm laughing because it's kind of too painful to actually put myself there. And Prahlad Maharaj wants us to get, no, material existence is worse than that. It's like this whole body, even if, oh, I have a nice body, I'm doing good. This whole body, this is disease itself. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I'm enlightened by the forest in the fire of principle, because I could also stay in the middle of the forest fire and think like, yeah, it will take like such a long time until the fire like will come to get me, but it doesn't take that long. So yeah, I have glimpses of like how terrible this material world is, and it's just a glimpse, because then I go, oh my god, like I don't even want to think about this, because yes, so Maya works to help us stay here. That's her service.
Hare Krishna, Haladini. Thank you for class this morning.
Hare Krishna, Anne.
I also appreciated you emphasizing that even in the body of a dog, that they're not going to go lower in their modes. And I was thinking of unconditional love and how my experience with dogs that I've had in the past, that I've experienced unconditional love from them. So I was appreciating that the distinction between the dog body and a human body, and that we have this rare opportunity. And I know you have your passion for horses, so I also enjoyed hearing more about how your service is to treat horses and to do prayers before you give service. So I'm just inspired, and I just wanted to say thank you again for your association, and I really enjoyed being with you today.
Hare Krishna, thank you for your appreciation.
Bhakti Lata.
Haribol, thank you for your class. I was appreciating this verse, and I was talking with my husband last night, and we were talking about death and how it seems so unfamiliar, like uncomfortable for not only human beings, but all living beings. It feels very harsh. And he was saying that there was this 94-year-old man in the hospital, and he was dying. And he was saying, what have I done? I've been good all my life. I've been taking care of my health. Like, I was good to people. Why is this happening to me? And Ganacham was just thinking, it's old age. Like, you're dying from old age. A lot of people don't even make it to 94. And so I thought, like, it doesn't matter even like how old we are. Like, it's still a jarring, painful experience, like death. And I was thinking how there's like billions upon billions of insects, and they feed all the chains of living entities, you know. They're food for everyone else, but not a single insect wants to die. You know, not a single living entity on this planet wants to die. And they're all fighting it because it's not the nature of the soul, and it's painful for them. And some living entities are aware enough that when their family members die, they feel the pain of it. You know, they feel the loss. Like dogs, like you were saying, Anne, I've read certain stories where they just are loyal even in death, and they miss their owners and the pain of that. And elephants remember and go back to where that elephant died and stay there. And so when you read that verse about how the animals even, you know, you were saying, it was another verse, chapter 2, I think, text 9.
Yes.
I don't remember the exact context, but basically that even the animals are benefited. Was that it?
Shall I read it again for you?
Sure.
even the worms, birds, and beasts are assured of elevation to the highest perfection of life if they are completely surrendered to the transcendental loving service of the Lord.
Right.
So what to speak of the philosophers amongst the human beings?
Right. So I was thinking like we can appreciate that, you know, dogs can have unconditional love because we can reciprocate, we can experience it. But all species, all living entities have that capacity to give and receive love and to actually be elevated, you know, to pure love of God. And it's such a magnanimous philosophy actually that it's not even like confined to human beings, but to all living entities. There's no speciesism, right? And I think
No species.
I'm just appreciating that point, but at the same time feeling it's such a foreign experience to die, and it's always painful. It doesn't matter if it's expected, like you're dying from old age, or maybe you have a disease for many years, or maybe whatever it is, it's always painful because it's just the soul. It's not a home.
Yes, like you have the realization that it's always painful, and it doesn't matter if it's like a lower living entity who doesn't have like so much consciousness of like being aware of what's happening, or if it's like completely old man or whoever. It's always painful, and you have realization of that. And also you have like appreciation, and my guess is like increasing appreciation of this philosophy that can give us a relief from this pain of dying. Yes. Yes, before this class, I actually made a count, like very approximate count, that every day, like 2 million of people on the earth die. So it's quite like we are living in death.
I was very moved by that story that you just heard from Ganesham about the 94-year-old. Because like, no, it's, okay, all bodies die. Still, if if we hear a child's dying, or even someone in their 20s or 30s, 40s, oh, that's especially sad, like that. But at 94, you would think like, well, that's kind of what happens. Like statistically, you're actually doing pretty good, you know, like that. But that's, and I'm not mocking him because, you know, because I have the same attachment. I have the same attachment. And so it's just like, and then the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada again, like the message there in that, oh no, I'm dying, is like, yeah, the nature of the self is to be deathless. So let's realize that deathless nature. But then that made an impact on me.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Church.
Hare Krishna, Haladini, thank you so much. I really appreciated this verse. The idea of how all kind of medical writing throughout the universe, all source of science and medicine comes from God. And I have a little anecdote from just last night. I was commenting on how there's this medical book. It's written by William Prophet, which is this famous orthodontist who just passed away last year. And I was commenting on how one of the residents in my program, in her free time constantly, or at least when we have gatherings, she claims to be reading Prophet. And I was thinking how so often in my life, like that gentleman from the story, the 94-year-old was saying, oh, I took care of my body and this and that. And it was reminded of me how I was sharing with Danielle how often I go into the trap of trying to take shelter in like material of material energy, like that guy who was trying to take shelter by, you know, keeping this body. And how I was telling to Danielle how, oh, you know, this girl in my program, in her free time, she's constantly reading Prophet, you know, and so like, do you think that she's will be like better taken care of or safer or whatever in the future than me? And Danielle said something that kind of took me back, because I was telling her about this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that I have here, when Narada visits Vyasadeva, And I was telling her how beautiful it sounded to me when it said, Sutta Goswami said, thus the sage amongst the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishi amongst the Brahmins, Vyasadeva. And so Danielle, she like looked at me and she's like, so what I heard you say, she's like, that girl is reading from prophet and you're reading from the prophet in your free time. And so that kind of like jarred me a little bit, because I was like, yeah, like, she's like, anything, any knowledge that, you know, whatever book or whatever somebody tries to do extra, she's like, any knowledge, she's like, it comes from God. Like all of this comes from him in book form. So she said, just serving him, he'll give you the understanding through your service or your treating of patients or whatever to get it, to get that whatever healing art there is. And so I was thinking about that and like the idea of just having my cup full. Like I was really moved by your statement of having gratitude and how important that is. Like in this horror film, to just have gratitude in a sense of kind of like turning our cup open to receive God's mercy. That feels like so significant. And then I was thinking about, I don't know where I've read this, or maybe it was one of the Chaitanya Charitamrita classes, but I remember the story about you know, you were mentioning about dogs or animals and different levels of advancement and so forth, and how this world is like jiva jivasi jivanam, like one living entity is food for another, and how easy it is for me to kind of compare myself in an effort to try and like lord over other people or other things, or think I'm more advanced than a dog or this and that. And I was thinking about I think there was a story where a dog was following his master, who was following Lord Chaitanya around. And I think Lord Chaitanya was eating some kind of fruit. I don't know if it was mango or something, and ended up throwing a husk at the dog. And the dog like instantly liberated. So I might be, you know, misinformed in the story, but I was just thinking about that idea, how like this dog, like spirit soul and dog body, was just following around, and it just got instant liberation without, you know, just like that, just from receiving mercy of just like a husk of fruit from Lord Chaitanya. So I thought, like, just to kind of be in that mood of gratitude and to be in that mood to receive mercy from God and not try to endeavor materially to find shelter or compare with other people, you know, and oh, like who's got it better, who's trying harder, who knows more knowledge, and just remembering that the source of all knowledge is God. So I was really like moved by your class, and those are kind of some of the things going through my head.
And you sound like joyful and grateful about like expanding your ability to see God in everything and see his mercy in the middle of this material fire and misery. And yes, I appreciate the last point that you just made. And now I have blanked out the last point that you made.
The dog, like kind of about gratitude and just receiving mercy and how the dog was liberated?
No, something after.
Okay.
It's okay.
Hare Krishna.
And it was a coconut pulp. It was a coconut pulp.
Oh, okay.
This
Yeah.
is Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I think what I heard George say is that all knowledge comes from God, and I really appreciated that. And that he was reading from the prophet and not from prophet. I really like that.
Hi, Haladini. Thank you for class.
Hare Krishna. Narayana. Nabu.
One thing that came up for me is when you were talking about this body changing and in relation to like the fact that we have a material body, mind, intelligence, false ego are symptoms of being in a diseased condition. I'm wanting like more understanding and clarity around like how exactly we're cleaning our hearts, our minds, if like they're not us. Like, what is the segue between like who we are, a spirit soul, and like our material mind that we're using to chant, our material tongue, our material thoughts about Krishna, like how, yeah, just understanding like what actually connects it to something that is real.
I don't know, but like the immediate thought that comes to mind that I will share, and then I hope that we will get a response from someone who has ideas, is that I don't know if it's like really necessarily like clearing, because for example, I can have the consciousness of the pure devotee in any kind of material body. And in my understanding, that also includes the subtle body. So I can have a consciousness of a pure devotee in any kind of material body, including the subtle body. That means that it's not like necessarily clear, but the soul there is clear, and the soul there is always pure. The soul there is always pure. And then by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is the original sound vibration of the living entity. And so as we are vibrating that, I think we are like more and more connecting to what we originally are and not where we are, because we are identifying with where we are. I am in this body, and this body includes this mind, and I am identifying with it. So I am identifying where I am with who I am. And I think the chanting is not that the where I am changes, the where I am is the same, but I know that I'm not the place, I'm the soul, the inhabitant. So I don't think it's like necessarily like clear. I think there is also probably other stages where the mind is like cleared or like completely, then we give up these material things and it's not there anymore. But I think there is also a stage like it's not like cleared, but I know who I am and who I am not. Anyone else would like to respond to Narayan's question?
I appreciate the discussion. Yeah, it seems that, okay, the gunas, the three modes of material nature, tamas, rajas, sattva, it's like a categorization system or scheme to categorize the way material energy influences us, and our mind, our body, our activities. But and it's a categorization scheme, and simultaneously material energy, the prakriti, it's made of the three modes. So the whole system of the three modes of nature is described like in chapters 14, 17, 18 of Bhagavad Gita. It's a way to classify material energy, and material energy, it's made of the modes. Like the prakriti is like it's the modes, but they're not distinguished yet. They're not in activity. And then once the Mahatattva comes, then the modes are active. Okay. So our hands and eyes and senses, because like the eye, we have my eyes are the senses, my ears are the hearing sense. It's not completely true. Like the actual seeing sense is something more subtle than the physical eye, but the seeing sense, it's kind of it's seated within the eye. The hearing sense is seated within the region of the gross ear. All right, so our senses and mind that they can be made of tamas, rajas, or sattva, or some combination. And so as we cultivate sattvic consciousness, things go from subtle to gross. That's the theme of the whole verse here in Haladini's class. It's like we've got this diseased consciousness, so we've got this body which is diseased. The diseased consciousness is thinking, I am someone other than Jivaras Rupai Krishnera Nityadas Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Beta Prakasham, something other than loving servant of Krishna. That's a diseased consciousness. We got this disease called the material body. And so, okay, so then within that disease, we can cultivate sattvic consciousness, sattvic habits, sattvic worldviews, and then our mind, our intellect becomes sattvic or rajasic if we cultivate rajasic worldviews and activities and communication habits and relations to emotions and things like that. So our body, our senses, mind, intellect, subtle senses, it can be made of different modes of the material energy, and then ultimately when we connect with Shuddha Sattva vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, when we're absorbed in Shuddha Sattva vibration, then the mind, the senses, the legs, the tongue, they become spiritualized. They actually become Shuddha Sattva. It's the same, not just for this vehicle, the body, but even like if we drive our car to go to a kirtan festival or to a Bhagavatam class, our car becomes spiritualized. Our car is no longer made of the modes of material nature. Prabhupada sometimes Prabhupada, the way I understand it, and not that I have much realization, it's not necessarily that our tongue or our nose or our ears or the Toyota we're driving, that it becomes Chintamani atoms, not necessarily like that. Prabhupada uses the term like it becomes like gold plated. It's like it might not be gold all the way through, or very often Prabhupada uses the term like the analogy like an iron rod. If it's put into fire and it becomes red hot, it's still iron, but it acts like fire. So when we're chanting Hare Krishna and hearing Bhagavatam and engaging in devotional service from the core of our consciousness, then our subtle and gross material body comes to higher and higher modes, and even to the pure Shuddha Sattva realm of being.
Thank you. That's very clarifying.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.